What if one day the United States and Russia finally went to war? Imagine the tension snapping after years of threats and rivalries. These are not just two normal countries. These are the world's biggest military giants, armed with thousands of nuclear weapons. If this war breaks out, it will not just change borders. It could change the entire world forever. The first moments of this war would shake the planet. Stock markets would collapse overnight. News channels everywhere would scream the same headline: World War III has begun. Millions of people would panic. Governments would activate emergency plans. And the world would suddenly realize this is no ordinary conflict. This is a clash that could end humanity itself. If America and Russia really went to war, the first explosions would not fall on Washington or Moscow. Both superpowers know that striking directly at each other would mean instant nuclear retaliation and total destruction. Instead, the fire would begin in the buffer zones. The smaller countries caught between giants. Eastern Europe would become the first battlefield. Places like Poland, the Baltic states, or even Ukraine would be turned into war zones overnight. Missiles would rain down, tanks would roll across borders, and ordinary people would wake up to the sound of sirens and bombs. And it would not stop there. In Asia, countries like Japan and South Korea, close allies of the United States, could also be targeted by Russia's missiles. Suddenly, the war spreads across continents. A conflict that started between two powers is now burning across the entire globe. Once the first missiles land, NATO cannot stay silent. Under Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, an attack on one member is an attack on all. That means the United States will not be alone. Europe, Canada, and dozens of other allies will be dragged into the fight. Suddenly, what began as a clash between two powers becomes a global firestorm. NATO forces would pour into Eastern Europe, deploying hundreds of thousands of troops. The skies would fill with American F-35s, European Eurofighters, and drones. While Russian jets scramble to fight back, the Atlantic Ocean would turn into a military highway, with U.S. aircraft carriers and submarines racing toward Europe. This is no longer just war, this is World War III. And for the first time since 1945, humanity stares at the possibility of the world tearing itself apart. This is where the war takes a terrifying turn. Russia has more than 5,900 nuclear warheads, the largest stockpile in the world. The United States is not far behind, with over 5,200 warheads ready to launch. These weapons are not just bombs. They are city destroyers. If even one nuclear missile is fired, millions could die in a matter of seconds. Entire cities, New York, London, Berlin, Moscow, could vanish in a flash of fire. And if more are used, the Earth itself could fall into what scientists call a nuclear winter. The skies would turn dark. Crops would fail, temperatures would drop, and billions of people could starve. The truth is simple. Once the first nuclear weapon is launched, there is no turning back. It will not just be war between nations. It will be the slow death of humanity. The moment America and Russia go to war, the world economy will collapse. Oil and gas pipelines from Russia would be destroyed. Energy prices would skyrocket, leaving millions without heat or electricity. Ships carrying food and goods would stop sailing, and international trade would freeze. Stock markets across the globe would crash in hours. The US dollar, the euro, the ruble, all would lose stability. Poor countries in Africa and Asia, who rely on imported food, would face famine within weeks. Even nations far from the battlefield, like Malaysia, Brazil, or Australia, would feel the shock. Technology would break down too. Satellites could be destroyed, cutting off internet and communication. Planes would be grounded, factories shut down, and jobs vanish overnight. Humanity would be thrown into a new Great Depression, far worse than anything in history. When the war spreads, the greatest tragedy will not be the battles. It will be the people. Millions of families would be forced to abandon their homes overnight. Cities would empty as refugees flood across borders, searching for safety that may no longer exist. Hospitals would collapse under the weight of endless wounded. Medicine and clean water would run out. Children would starve, and the elderly would be left behind in ruined towns. Camps would rise everywhere, overcrowded, cold, and desperate. Diseases would spread faster than any army. And because the world's powers are too busy fighting, international aid would be almost impossible. Humanity would face not only war, but famine, sickness, and mass suffering on a scale never seen before. This is the ultimate truth. If America and Russia go to war, there will be no winners. Not the United States. Not Russia. not NATO. The only outcome will be the destruction of humanity. That is why, even though these two giants threaten and test each other again and again, they are careful never to let the war go too far. Because the leaders know, once the first nuclear weapon is fired, there is no way back. The war will not belong to two nations. It will belong to the entire world. So the question is not who would win. The question is, would humanity survive? And the answer is clear. In a nuclear war between America and Russia, everyone loses.